Call to order the March 14th, 2023 meeting of the Sequoia Board of Directors. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Thank you for coming. And if you will, Madam Secretary, will you have a roll call for us?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gooch,
Here.
Ms. Kuczynski,
Here.
Ms. Jordan,
Present.
Mr. Karen.
Here.
Mr. McKellar is absent this evening. Mr. McLeod
Present.
and Mr. Webb.
Present.
All are accounted for.
Okay, thank you. And now, Councilperson Jordan, will you lead us in an invocation, please?
Sure. Let us bow our heads in prayer. To Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us and allowing us to assemble here this evening to do the work and the deeds for the municipalities that serve under Saguaso. As we meet this evening, Lord, please be with us, lead us and guide us, that we would make the best decisions for the customers of Saguaso. These and all other blessings I ask in your name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Chair, I'll do the pledge for you.
Okay. Mr. Wade is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? If there are no adjustments to the agenda, would we entertain a motion for approval of the meeting agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilperson Jordan for approval. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kuczynski. And if there's any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Agenda, the meeting agenda is approved. And I trust everyone's had time to review the minutes from the February 14th regular board meeting. Is there any comments on any
Motion for approval.
okay, we have a
Second.
motion to approve. Have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. The minutes been approved. Has anyone signed up for public comments tonight
Yes, sir.
and no emails?
No, no.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on. I don't think there's any. We didn't have anyone send in any board discussion items. Has anybody come up with anything? If not, then we'll move on to our lead and copper management program, board of contract. All right, Mark.
So the first item is lead and copper management award of contract. This is the project that we discussed over the past few months. US EPA passed in 2021 new lead and copper rules, which require all public utilities to do a lot of work on their systems. This includes some testing and building a lead service line inventory. As with all the utilities, we have to meet this requirement. This is not an option. So we decided with our staff levels, best thing for Saguaso to do would be to hire an experienced consultant to lead the project for us. So on July 20th of 2022, we issued a request for qualifications to seek a qualified engineering consultant to lead this project for us. Those qualifications and statements of qualifications were due on August 24th. Ultimately, we received qualifications from 3 consultants. After reviewing those documents, we decided that we were going to bring 2 consultants in for an interview. We interviewed those top 2 consultants. And those interviews are held in October. And ultimately, Saguaso staff selected Hayden and Sawyer as the consultant that we wanted to manage that project. Throughout December and January, I worked with Hayden to develop and refine the lead and copper scope of services and projected costs. And in February, we worked with them to finalize that and ultimately work with our legal team to develop the contract document for signature. Staff recommendation for this project is that the board approve the contract with Hazen Sawyer for the EPA mandated lead and copper rule revision project. Schedule for this, as soon as this is approved, we will enter into a contract with Hazen and Sawyer, anticipate a start date of March 17th. And we will begin work immediately. This is a multi-year project. This will span into fiscal year 24-25. The completion date for the first phase of this mandated by EPA is October 16th of 2024. But there's a lot of work that we need to get done, so we need to get started on this soon. Fiscally, this project, is a high amount, but there's a tremendous amount of work in the development of all the software, the sampling, the lead service line inventory. But the total contract, or excuse me, consultants scope of services is $349,173. This is money that will require a budget amendment that will be presented coming up later in this meeting, and funds will come from the capital fund balance. Attached to this legislative memo is the proposal provided by Hazen with a breakdown of the fees at the end. That's the last page if you want to see that. The fees broken down between the 11 different tasks. Strategic plan alignment for this project falls in line with area number 1 for safe, reliable, and sustainable water system. And finally, the executive director's recommendation is that the Seguasa Board of Directors approve the proposed submittal by Hazen and Sawyer on January 27, 2023 for work associated with the lead and copper rule revision project for the not to exceed amount of $349,173. So, are there any questions?
Any questions? It's just.
Should that date change?
I would like to round the 349, 173 up to a not to exceed 350,000. I know that's absolutely exact, Mark. You've done it all the time, but I don't want 50 cents to cause a problem, you know, we would have to have an extra meeting.
Is our finance director okay with that?
We would have to amend the budget amendment on the agenda.
I don't want to do that. Sorry, Richard.
Can we leave it as is?
We can leave it as is.
Oh, okay.
I just thought we'd make 315 to make it easy.
Some of those tasks are hourly, not to exceed. They're not lump sum, so hopefully we'll come in well below that anyway.
Okay,
We hope.
okay.
And this is mandated by the EPA, and we're getting into the area that time is of the essence.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for, like you said, 2 years. We had a delay, but now it's here.
Okay,
I make a motion that we approve the proposal submitted by Hazen and Sawyer on January 27th for work associated with lead and copper rural revision project for the not to exceed amount of $349,173.
we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. White. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion is approved. Now, next up, Mark, we got the PFAS testing program management award of contract.
So this is another one that we've discussed for multiple meetings, and we are finally ready to take action. So the PFAS project, it's a hot topic. There's been a lot of interest in this. Back in September, we contracted with Hazen and Sawyer to develop a PFAS sampling and analysis plan, something that would help us put a plan in place for testing our raw water to identify if we do have any high levels of PFAS contamination, and hopefully find a solution to that. Part of that is also to identify any sources. If we find where high level of PFAS could be coming into Lake Hope, we could try to do something about that, prevent PFAS from getting there. Ultimately, we put out a RFP, request for proposals, based on that sampling plan. Issued that in January, on January 6th. We had a bid opening on February 3rd, where we opened proposals submitted by consultants. Ultimately, we had 13 businesses that reviewed and downloaded their request for proposals. but only one submitted a proposal package to us. That was ECS Southeast. Don't really know why more folks did not submit, but I worked with Hazen. We talked to the consultant. We kind of checked around with prices and made sure that these numbers felt good, and they did. All these sampling numbers look good to Hazen. I felt good about those, so we felt comfortable proceeding with ECS Southeast as our consultant here versus trying to go back out for additional, trying to get 2 more bids. So, staff recommendation, based on the review of the submitted bid package with Seguasa's consultant, Seguasa staff recommends that the board approve the contract with ECS Southeast for PFAS sampling and analysis. And you can see the chart that was included that shows the different prices, the unit prices. So we were going to do 14 grab samples where they go out in a boat, take samples by hand, and those samples are analyzed. Those numbers came back at $1,150 per sample. And then based on the results of those samples, we would potentially go to the POCUS samples, which would be, they set meters out in the water, leave those out for about a month. They take longer readings, then we go back and collect those and analyze results. Those were $2,100 per sample. Hopefully the graph samples will be enough, but we are going to be seeking approval for the total amount here. Schedule following board approval, contract will be executed between Seguasa and ECS Southeast with an estimated start date of March 17th. Financially, the project is based on unit prices, based on the proposed contract presented by ECS Southeast. Staff estimates a total cost of $41,300. The funding from this project will be allocated from the capital fund balance and will be presented in the upcoming budget amendment in this meeting. Attachments include the unit price bid form supplied by ECS Southeast. This project falls in line with focus area number 1 from the strategic plan for a safe, reliable, and sustainable water system. And finally, the executive director's recommendation is that the Seguasa Board of Directors approve a unit price contract with ECS Southeast LLP for the PFAS sampling and analysis project for the not to exceed amount of $41,300 based on their February 3rd, 2023 bid form shown in Exhibit A. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
ECS was the only one that submitted a bid. Did they send us a proposal or we didn't do RFQs, we did RFPs, so do we know if they're really qualified to do this stuff?
Yes, so that's part of their submittal. They had to submit qualifications
Right.
and show that they've done projects like this. They had to submit experience. And I just included with this what their bid, the last page here, Exhibit A is what they submitted with the unit prices.
Okay,
So they did submit that plus other documentation. I just did not include all of that in this memo.
so the samples not the grab samples, the POCUS samples, there's something left in the water and then we go back and pull it in?
It's a meter.
Is it any possibility that a fishing person or somebody could mess with it?
I guess there's a chance, but they have to know where they were located.
I mean, the first word polar throws me off completely because we're in the south. How is it polar and down here?
Well, they are weighted down and they'll be at a location with GPS pinpoint exactly where they're at. There's not something that will be floating. It would be down on the bottom on the
Okay.
surface. So could someone tamper with that? I guess they could, but we would obviously hope not.
Well, there was a report on 60 Minutes last week about turnout gear. And the fire departments that they want all new turnout gear because of the PFAS.
Any other questions? Then call for motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion to approve. We have a second. Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. And now we move on to our draft cross connection ordinance. Notion of a notice of intent. I think Our executive director is gonna
That is
handle
me.
this for us, okay?
That is correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think what's important here to emphasize for the board regarding this item is this is a declaration of intent to adopt a cross-connection ordinance. Now, normally I try not to produce 3-page legislative memos with a 40-page attachment, but that's basically what you have in front of you here this evening. So I'm not going to read through this for you. You can do that at your leisure, and I'm sure that you have already. But what I need to point out here is that we do have a cross-connection program in place at Seguasa. We have for many years. So we do have that throughout our system. In looking to update this program as we do and look at the services and in data, we recognize that we do not have the supporting ordinance for the cross-connection program, and we do need a cross-connection ordinance. So in order for us to issue a cross-connection ordinance or have the board approve that, we are required by the state to have a declaration of intent to adopt. So that's really what this legislative item is about, and you will see on page 40 of your booklet where we have Exhibit A, which is the declaration of intent to adopt the draft cross-connection ordinance. Now, what this notice of intent does is if the board would approve this item this evening, then I will basically contact our municipalities, provide them with a copy of this notice of intent, and then we allow 60 days basically for comments to be received back to myself. We look at those comments, and after we've basically held that 60-day period for comments, I can then bring this item back to the board to actually approve, review and approve the cross-connection ordinance. So between today and maybe June 1st is basically kind of the timeline for this, as far as seeing this back to the board. It's a very comprehensive cross-connection ordinance. And we've modeled this off of other ordinances that are found throughout the state of North Carolina. Jim Wren and his firm spent a lot of time with me on this to get this right. I'm sure if you've looked at this, it's quite extensive, but it's something that we need for our enforcement action, because at some point we may need to take enforcement for someone that's not following the rules for cross connection. And again, cross connection slash backflow are kind of used synonymously. And what we're trying to do is just keep water from coming back into our system, backflowing into our distribution system. We always want to have positive pressure that we're pushing out, and there are some cases where it can be pushed back to us. We want to have those devices. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the notice of intent, regarding the backflow ordinance itself. And of course, we'll have an opportunity to get into that draft cross-connection ordinance in the future as well. Yes, sir.
Who's gonna be responsible for the enforcement action to make sure that these companies that have the backflows, they're getting the proper inspections that are required?
Well, ultimately, that's Seguasa's responsible for that. So that would fall basically on my domain responsibility
Okay.
as the executive director.
Because one of the issues I found was in working with this in Wake County and Raleigh is a lot of times the domestic water flows would fail upon inspection, but they wouldn't submit the inspection reports. So when the city inspector came around to ask for the reports, that's when they would pop up, and there's no telling how long they were failing.
Well, from my experience administering these programs, you have to comply with an inspection annually.
Correct.
And we keep track of the type of device, the location of the device, whether it's passed or whether it's failed. So we basically monitor that, and we tell basically the commercial or residential agency that this is when this is due and this is when this is inspected. You get certain notifications if you haven't complied within that certain window. And if you don't, then we can start to take action against that backflow device holder, if you will, including turning off water, removing the device if we have to, or whatever's causing the issue. So it's not a set it and forget it type of program at all. It's something that you have to be very active on. And I think that Seguasa is pretty lucky to only have, was it 170? About 170 total devices, quite honestly.
Domestic and fire suppression.
As far as I know, that's correct. Yeah. And Seguasa has several devices as well, and these are found at our facilities and our pump stations. So we have backflow devices there as well. Thank you.
So I did check with the city of Creedmoor about cross-connection ordinance to find out if they had one, so we could refer back. And the answer I got was, when we merged, we deleted previous chapter 5152, the code of ordinances, and replaced them with Seguasa's sewer regulations. So
Okay.
if they had a cross connection, city of Creedmoor has deleted it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any comments? All right, then, I guess we need a motion to move forward.
Yes,
Okay.
my recommendation is the Board of Directors approve the declaration of intent to adopt the draft cross connection ordinance.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Well, we have a motion, to have a second, have a second. And any questions on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Here we go. Additional funding for emergency sewer construction at wastewater.
Seems like when he shows up, he's always asking for money.
You sound like a certain finance director, I know.
He was shaking his head as I was saying that.
I wish I was not standing here asking about this, but this is regarding the broken 36-inch sewer line at the wastewater treatment plant. In the upcoming project updates, I'm going to be showing more pictures and giving more background. You can see more of what I'm going to be talking about here. But as with a lot of emergency repairs, you hit challenges along the way, and we did so here. And ultimately, due to an extended time frame on construction, and also material needs, equipment needs, ultimately we're going to go through all the previously approved budget and contingency. So we do need some additional funds to complete the project, the repair project. So under the analysis section, I've got a list here of several items that came up along the way, which caused issues. The first bullet point there talks about the amount of concrete. So the plans that we had when we put our scope together showed a small amount of concrete around the pipe that was in the ground and base of the manhole. When we excavated that, we found that there was a tremendous amount of concrete there was no way to account for all of this. Typically with that much concrete, you would use a hydraulic hammer on an excavator and you could break the concrete up quickly. But due to the proximity to all the other lines on site, we could not do that. So guys had to stand in the hole with jackhammers and break this up. So we spent over a week breaking concrete with jackhammers. So that's adds a week by itself to the length of the project. Also found 11 conduits that were running a few feet from the manhole. These conduits house 480 volt power and communication lines. All of these had to be pulled and relocated temporarily so we could continue operation of the plant. But had to get that out of the way because with the conduits where they were, we could not excavate and remove the manhole and pipe. Also ran into an unaccounted for conduit. Nobody had a clue it was there. It was a fiber optic comm line. That fiber line was severed and had to be replaced. Also, after we pulled the 36-inch pipe, and I've got pictures of the pipe once we got it out of the ground, I'll share those later. We think potential source of the failure was the direct tap in the chemical feed line, and to ensure a better connection in the future, we wanted to install a tapping saddle instead of a new direct tap. So we had to order a tapping saddle, wait for that to be delivered. And then finally, the fittings, mega lugs that we had, the sleeves of mega lugs that we had to connect the new pipe to the old existing pipe in the ground. We were trying to install the mega lugs and found that the existing pipe was oblong. I guess over time it got squeezed down. It was no longer perfectly ground, so the mega lugs didn't fit. So had to send those back and order new fittings, something called Hymax couplings that we use a lot of water line repair here. So all of these roadblocks obviously caused delays and added costs to the project. So I worked with HG Reynolds, our contractor, to put together the cost estimate to get us to completion. You can see this table here. So the top two items, $15,000 for added labor, materials, and equipment for the contractor. And then $20,000 for the electrical subcontractor. That includes all the fiber optic, putting all the temporary lines back in the ground that we had to temporarily move. We had to cut the conduit out. So we had to put new conduit back in the ground. So that's a pretty large chunk that we did not anticipate. So that's $35,000 that would go to the HG Reynolds contract. We also have a couple more items here that are SAGWASA funded. One is a $12,000 Sunbelt rental fee. That is for pumps being on site. Obviously, we had to keep the pumps on site longer than we anticipated. There's additional cost for that. And then are also showing another $3,000 for diesel fuel to run those pumps. So that's a total of $50,000. So our recommendation is that the board of directors approve the funding as you see on the chart here. Schedule upon board approval, Seguasa will notify the contractor of funding approval, and the remainder of the construction project will be completed within the next 7 to 10 days. Financially, this project will be funded, or this additional funding will come from designated capital improvement fund balance, and a budget amendment is coming up later in this meeting. There are no additional attachments to this legislative memo. And the focus area for strategic plan alignment falls in line with a reliable and sustainable sanitary sewer system. Finally, the executive director's recommendation is that the board of directors approve increasing the HG Reynolds company contract for this project by $38,500 for not to exceed amended total of $167,276 to complete emergency repair of the 36-inch sewer main located at the wastewater treatment plant. So if you have any questions, I'll take those, but then I'll also be giving more information in the project update.
Any questions? Yes.
Mr. Chair, just a comment, because if we're all doing the math here, we see the $50,000 up above
Yeah.
and 38,005 below. So we are amending the contract, obviously, for HG Reynolds, but you will see in the budget amendment that there's other money going into the Sunbelt Rentals and the additional fuel that Richard will cover in the budget amendment. So that's how we make up the difference here. You'll see in the budget amendment coming up following this.
Okay. It sounds like your as-built plans weren't very accurate.
That is very true. Very true.
Did it look like they just had excess concrete and dumped it in the hole?
That's what we assume. I mean, you typically order concrete by the truckload. So it could have been that was the last bit of concrete they had to pour, and they had yards of concrete left, and it just made its way into the hole. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it was a tremendous amount.
And I guess there's enough time has passed. We don't have any recourse with the construction company that built it.
They gave us extra concrete?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't think so. That would have happened.
So we just charge it for it, you can have it,
No.
right? Whole and square.
I didn't.
This you're costing us now.
Was that BS before Scott?
Yes, that's.
That was, yeah, that was well before Scott. That was probably what, 13, 14?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I would like to emphasize that Mark talked about, you kind of breezed over, it, but initially the question was, what caused the problem? What caused the break? And the theory is that direct tap into the top of the pipe is what caused this problem and this leak. So when Mark talked about changing the design to bring in a saddle tap, this is basically something that fits around the pipe, and he'll show you this in his presentation. And then there's a tap directly in the saddle. So it's a better construction that should last much longer, and something we will check more often, correct, Mark? As far as opening the lid, looking down there to make sure we don't have a problem.
I don't want to ever do this again. So,
They threw all that extra cement in there, so you wouldn't see the leak.
the leak occurred on the bottom of the pipe. We never would have seen it. but-
Maybe it was the weight of the cement.
Any other questions?
No.
Then we'll call for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve increasing the HG Reynolds Company contract for this project at 38.5 for a not to exceed amended amount of 167,276 to complete emergency repair of the 36-inch sewer main located at the wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
All right.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried.
Now the
And
money,
now,
the guy that has the money.
now to appropriate the funds.
Every time I see him coming up the hallway, it's like close the door. He bought some money for something. So I just have two quick, easy items for you. I know the budget amendments for the items you've already previously approved. So budget amendment number 12 is in your agenda tonight. You'll see that it appropriates the budget for the PFAS testing program and for the lead and copper program that you previously voted on. The total budget amendments for budget amendments 1 through 11 that were previously approved this year is 2,389,438. I will make one correction to your book. Budget amendment number 11 was February of 2023, not March. I apologize for that error. And the budget amendment number 12 is basically appropriating designated fund balance for 390,473, and it's going to the projects and studies department 390,473, increasing the appropriations there. The breakdown you'll see in the supporting document, 41,300 for the PFAS testing, and the lead and copper project 349,173, coming to the total of 390,473. The recommendation is that the board of directors approve budget amendment number 12 as presented.
Any questions for Richard?
Motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is budget amendment number 13. This one is appropriating additional money for the cost overruns of the wastewater treatment plant sewer line project. You'll see that including the budget amendment you just approved just a moment ago. Amendments 1 through 12 total $2,779,911. To kind of touch on what Scott and Mark mentioned earlier about the breakdown of the cost, we're amending the HD rentals contract 38,500. You'll see that in the supporting documents. But we're also amending gas and diesel fuel for $3,000 and rental of other equipment by $12,000 for a total of $53,500. So the budget amendment is to appropriate fund balance, designated fund balance of $53,500. You'll see the appropriation is being budgeted in the wastewater treatment plant for the large repairs line item, $53,500. And the recommendation is that the board of directors approve budget amendment 13 as presented.
Any questions from Richard?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Can you start keeping your door closed?
The next time he comes to your office, he's gonna say the board always supports what I want.
I took out a warning system, because it doesn't work heels. I'll see if I can know when it's coming to close the building.
Make him start wearing a bell when he comes in.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not here to ask for more money now.
Well, I'm gonna take forward with budget amendments this year. Yeah,
So next up, we've got the project update. So I'll be talking about two projects. One is the repair at the wastewater treatment plant, and then the other is the I-85 sanitary sewer project.
Did you design this one or did she design this one?
I think you can tell by how unsophisticated.
It doesn't have any moving pieces or sound music, so yeah, this is all
Make sure that space of confidence there.
I'm with you, my friend. She would have to help me too.
I could barely make PowerPoint work, so. So project summary, I'm not gonna run through all of these, but these are the dates of when the break occurred, when we first came to the board and had funding approved. The budget originally approved was at $128,776, and then we amended that tonight. We'll go to the next slide, please.
We've almost
So-
spent that 25% contingency.
Yeah.
We did. So this is a picture I shared last time, at the last meeting. This just shows location of the break between the oxidation basin and the splitter box. And you can see that arrow pointing at the bottom. That concrete that you see there was the ball, the manhole that housed the pipe where the break occurred. We'll go to the next slide. So I've got listed here the same conflicts that I went over before during the legislative memo presentation. And well, I won't really touch on those again, but I will show you some pictures coming up. Schedule, we anticipate March 17th, Friday this week. The 36-inch pipe will be installed and operational. Same day, March 17th, the bypass pump system will be able to go offline. after many weeks of running the plant. And then we anticipate by the next Friday, March 24th, the project will be complete. And that will include all backfill, cleanup, and contractor demobilization. So now we'll run through some pictures from the site. This is showing the temporary bypass system. You can see the three hard pipes going into that into the oxidation basin. Those are taking flow from that basin over to the concrete box that you see behind. That is the splitter box. That system is what has isolated the break or the broken pipe, so we can cut out the broken pipe and replace it. So that system, those pumps have been running for about a month now. Next slide, please. So this picture shows one of the conflicts that I mentioned. Picture on the left, you can see a whole pile of conduits. Those are the 11 conduits that we found that were housing the power and communication lines. And on the right, you can see all of the different colored lines that were pulled from those conduits and moved out of the way temporarily so we could do construction. So part of what was approved tonight was the contractor, the electrical contractor, coming back, reinstalling conduits that you see there on the left, and then taking the temporarily relocated lines and pulling them back through all of those conduits. Next slide. So this is a picture of the work zone. On the left, you can see at ground level the size of the excavation that was required here. The picture on the right shows, I believe it's about a 10 to 12 foot deep hole that had to be excavated. We've got a manhole box there shoring the sides to keep the ground from caving in. Obviously, that's a safety concern. We have to install that. Down in the bottom of that, you can see a small piece of the concrete cradle that was housing the pipe. We'll go to the next slide. So these are some pictures of some of the concrete removal. On the left, you can just see some of the some of the upper portions of the manhole. So this is a 12-foot deep manhole. That top section was about 4 feet. And then you can see there's concrete up around that already. So that shallow in the ground, we thought concrete was going to be 10 feet deep. We hit concrete 4 feet deep. So then on the far right, you can see what looks like rocks. That's a lot of the concrete that we were jackhammering to get out of the hole. And then another picture in the middle showing some of the concrete cradle that still remained after we chipped most of the rest out. So just trying to give you an idea of just how much concrete had to come out of that hole. The pictures here show on the left, that is the 20-foot long stick of 36-inch ductile iron pipe. That was the new pipe that was ordered and delivered to the site. In front of that, those things look like rings. Those are the sleeves that we originally ordered that we're going to tie the new pipe to the existing pipe in the ground, which I stated earlier would not work and had to be sent back because of the oblong shape of the existing pipe. On the right is the doghouse manhole section that was going to be installed over the pipe. Once we install the new pipe, that is lowered down. You can't see it in this picture, but there it's open on either end, so you can drop that over the pipe that's installed and then grout in the ends and close it up. That's how you got to install a manhole on a retrofit like this. We were hoping the original doghouse manhole section was going to fit, but would be okay to use. But when we had all that concrete, we had to jackhammer so much that piece was destroyed, so we had to order a new doghouse manhole section. Next slide. So these pictures show as we were trying to install the mega lugs and sleeves to get this pipe lowered into the section. So that 20-foot stick of pipe that was ordered, we had to cut it down to, I believe it was about a 12-foot section. That's what we cut a 12-foot piece out that was broken. We had to trim the new piece down to 12 feet to fit that gap. And we were installing the sleeves here to try to lower it down and get it connected. And then that's when we found, obviously, it didn't fit. So the next slide shows, on the left shows a Hymax fitting. This is something that our crews use regularly on about all of our water line breaks, where we have to cut a piece of PVC pipe or ductile iron pipe out. This is the fitting that we use typically to make those repairs. So we're very comfortable with those. On the right shows the existing pipe that's in the ground. You can't really tell how out of ground it is in this picture, but that is where that piece of pipe was, I guess, I don't want to say crushed, but just squeezed down and made a little off center. So this is the pipe that we pulled out of the ground. So the square in the middle, we did that. We cut that so we could get a pump in that pipe during work, so we could pump all the wastewater out of that. So we could empty that out, so when we cut the pipe to remove it, we would not make a mess, so we wanted to get that cleaned out. The other holes are, two of those are what we found, we saw the night of the break. But once we got it cleaned out, pulled out of the ground, saw there were more holes, and you can see they're all in a line there. I do want to send this off to a company to have them do some analysis to try to help us determine what caused this break. The best we can come up with now, there was a concrete cradle that ran up close to where that line of holes is located. We think that some of the wastewater and alum mixture, alum is the chemical that we feed here. Alum by itself is not corrosive, but the best we can come up now is some of that alum and wastewater mixture came out of that direct tap for the alum feed line and settled along that concrete cradle, basically in line with these holes that you see here. When alum mixes with groundwater, it does become corrosive. So the best I can come up with right now is that somehow groundwater or rainwater made its way in the vault, mixed with the alum and set on this location on the edge of this pipe, and it caused this failure. I don't have a good picture of it here, but if you zoom in, you can tell the pipe was eaten from the outside. It's not something from the inside. It's really hard to see that, and I can probably send you some better pictures there. But that's the best we can come up with right now as the source of the failure of this pipe. But it's just odd that it's a line of 4 holes that go right along where that concrete cradle was.
And that was at the bottom, or that was
So
at the
that's
top?
so the way it's sitting right now is basically how it's sitting in the hole. So that square was sitting right at the top. So we cut a hole in the top and dropped the salt pump into this pipe. So they were about at the 10 o'clock position on the pipe. Next slide. So on the left here is this is the tapping saddle that is being installed around the pipe. This allows for a better, more secure connection point when we make the tap and install the alum chemical feed line, and that is shown on the right. That is some of the system that's going to tie back into that pipe to deliver the chemical. Or we put alum into the wastewater, and that helps it to settle out in the clarifiers, which is the next step in the process. So I've got more pictures that I can share if anyone wants to see, but I wanted to share these just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with, some of the problems we've faced, and the solution going forward. So hopefully within, like I said, 7 to 10 days, we're done. So are there any questions about this project?
Having the pictures was helpful.
Very much so. Yes, thank you for the pictures.
All right. Next up, I'll give a brief update for the I-85 sewer project. Everybody here knows the scope, so I'm not going through that again, but over the past 30 days, CDM Smith and Seguasa, we performed site visits to evaluate lift station layouts, gravity sewer force main alignments. We're really working hard on the design of those, a 30% design. So we're really nailing down what we need for the routes and easements and so forth. CDM Smith completed the USDA environmental assessment, and they submitted that to Seguasa for review. We're still making progress to try to finish up the traditional surveying and underground utility marking. We're preparing we prepared documentation for property owner notification for geotechnical testing for the lift station sites. Seguasa, CDM, and our attorney met with Department of Health and Human Services to discuss sewer improvements through their property and the easement acquisition process. We do have a portion of the northern interceptor line that will be going through state-owned property around Murdoch. Continued development of 30% drawings for the northern and southern gravity interceptors, the East Middleton gravity sewer, the Joe P lift station, and East Middleton lift station and force main. And we've got like I said, we're 30% design drawings are well underway. We've got a meeting scheduled to review those on May the 10th. Over the next 30 days, CDM is going to update the USDA PER. Seguasa staff reviewed that document over the past few weeks and got comments back to them. They're making revisions based on that. And we plan to submit the USDA funding application within the next 30 days. That's a big milestone. go back one with the title. So we work on a draft plat for the Joe P. lift station. We're coordinating with the sub-consultant to start geotechnical work over the next 30 days, and we believe that will start early April. Hopefully get closer to finishing up the traditional surveying and utility marking and continue working on those design drawings. So that's a quick update for the I-85 project. No schedule changes on that yet. No delays, no dates pushed back. So with that, I'll take any questions on that project.
Any questions? Any
Mark.
com-
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Just a comment after the board members have any questions.
Yeah.
Go back to the previous slide. So Mark, just for the board, the first bullet item as far as the USDA PER and submitting that. So we're basically on time. Didn't we anticipate about March, April to get that submitted?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's important for the board to understand here that last fall, we asked the board's permission to move forward with the application process and developing the PER. I found the PER to be very interesting, quite honestly. It's a lengthy document, but Mark often refers to the number of permits that we have to obtain for this project, and they're all listed throughout several pages. It's quite interesting, but I want to impress upon the board that we're still on time with this project as far as the project schedule, especially in developing the 30% design drawings, those type of things. So we anticipate that we would have our application submitted in the next 30 days. And we believe that we may have an answer back from the USDA come August.
Before September.
September.
Their
Their fiscal year is October 1st. So we're trying to get everything wrapped up so that we're, I guess you would say, first in line at the beginning of their fiscal year, which is very advantageous to us. And recall that when we get our application information back, we will share that with the board, what that means, what the terms are, those type of things, and have another meeting to present to the board. So that'll be coming up later this summer. So just wanted to mention that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, do we have any comments from our executive director?
Well, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark and Richard, thank you for your presentations this evening. Greatly appreciate it. Board of Directors, thank you for your approvals this evening for the projects you approved. Very important projects here to keep us moving forward and gaining progress here at Sagwa. So that's all I have this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from our attorneys?
I have a matter for executive session for attorney-client privilege.
Okay, thank you. Now comments from our board members. Commissioner Way.
We have not received a final report from the state in reference to PFAS testing that they've conducted, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other? Commissioner McLean,
No comments tonight.
Commissioner Karen, Councilperson Jordan.
No comments?
Okay. Vice Chair Kaczynski.
No comments.
And I don't have any comments either. And with that, we'll entertain the motion to go from open session to closed session.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion.
For
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? And we'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. We're gonna take a 5-minute break and come back and close session. All right, is there any other business to come before the board tonight? If there's no other business to come before us, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Done, no discussion, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Bye.
Bye.